Yummy, yummy glyphosate, otherwise known as Roundup. Do you want that all over your food? Probably not. And yet, why did President Trump just go ahead and sign an executive order allowing just that? Yeah, let's talk about that. Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Oh, hey there, folks. Welcome to today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Beautiful Studios here in sunny Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is, again, brought to you by Cardio Miracle, the best heart health supplement in the world. Stick around. We'll talk about that later in today's episode. But first, glyphosate, celiac disease. I remember back in the late 2010s, I remember we were driving home, my family and I, from Florida, because we were one of those families. We drove to Florida from New York. And I remember at that point, my dad had lost well over, I think it was almost 100 pounds for no reason. We had no idea what was going on. Dad had just started to look like skin and bones. And it turned out he had celiac disease, lo and behold, and had no idea. My dad, the former farmer who then was doing a custom hire business where he was planting all types of different agricultural, seeds across the upstate New York area and dealing with glyphosate all the time. So I see it firsthand. I know the impact that it can have on the human body, and yet our food companies put it on food on the regular. There's been a fight to push back against this. We had the Make America Healthy movement, and with the advent of HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., seemed like things maybe were on the upswing, that we were going to be seeing some big changes. But alas, Donald Trump just passed an executive order, now basically reversing all the progress it felt like we were making. So let's dig into that. Joining us here once again on the Brian Nichols Show is from Meehan, MD, Cathy Mehan. Welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Hey, Brian. I am great, and thank you so much for having me back.
Great to have you back on the show. We're talking all things health, wellness, results. But before we do that, Cathy, do us a favor. You've been on the show before, so for folks who did not get the chance to see your first appearance, obviously I recommend them to go check that episode out. Great chat. But just to catch the folks here on the show who are maybe new to the audience, just who is Cathy Mehan? What is Mehan MD? And kind of what's your role in this greater Make America Healthy Again movement?
Well, let's see. Who is Cathy Mehan? Because she is not the same person today that she was before. I am a medical freedom advocate. And when it comes to things like informed consent, I want to make sure that parents, children, families know risks, benefits, and alternatives of medical procedures. And it really started with my late husband, Jim Meehan, MD, who sadly passed away a year and a half ago from chemotherapy. And that's a whole nother segment of a show when it comes to informed consent and risk, benefits, and alternatives. And, Jim and I made a great team. He was the fierce voice and the medical side. And then I was, the marketing and PR stuff for Meehan MD. And we met in college over 35 years ago, and just we were this dynamic team. But when Jim passed, I was like, what do I do? I can't close the clinic. I mean, we have a nationwide adult clinic for adults. We do telemedicine. Our office is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we were in the middle of preparing to launch Mindset Kids, which is our telemedicine pediatric clinic. So I knew, I prayed, I knew we couldn't close the clinic. So now, I have a podcast. Who ever thought that was going to happen with the Meehan mission? I'm on podcasts, but the whole thing is we cannot stop fighting. Where we are right now, we have come so far, and we still have so far to go. It's like when we started, it was over 10 years ago when the documentary Vaxxed came out.
Oh, yeah.
So I highly recommend your listeners, if they're not familiar with Vaxxed, that was the CDC whistleblower came out saying we destroyed the data showing the MMR vaccination linked to autism. So that was, really like
There's
that.
no data showing any
Yeah.
links to anything negative. Yeah, because they got it all destroyed. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
they put
course
it
there's
in a
no
trash
data or
can.
evidence.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy, which I would like to also talk about another study, but first, let's talk about glyphosate.
Yes.
So, this is really interesting because I also want to flash back to 1986 when President Ronald Reagan signed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. And what that did was that granted complete no liability for manufacturers or the suppliers or the administrators of vaccinations on our children.
Oh,
So what
shit.
happened, it's these corporations, these businesses, and they're like, "Oh, we're losing money because we're killing and destroying families and, making, debilitating their children. And so they're suing us and we can't make any money. So, government, dear not Dr. Reagan, President Reagan, please sign something to release us of liability." And he did. He did. And, I will say, I don't think he realized all the manipulation that was in there and what it was going to actually lead to.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he was sold a bunch of crap, which the same thing Trump was probably sold a bunch of crap about glyphosate.
You said crap, not crack, right? Because that would be a whole
Yeah,
different
well, yeah,
scandal case.
well, yeah. They might have
Sorry,
been
I had
doing
to.
crack while they were signed. I don't know, but the same thing happened. So Trump well, I call it the 2026 Glyphosate Act, because basically what he did was he gave free, no liability whatsoever for the producers and the productions for glyphosate. I do understand it's to bring production of it over here to the US, but what is it, a chess move? I don't
Right.
know. Is it something that we're going to then phase out? I don't know. So that's, all I do know is that glyphosate causes cancer. It's in our food products. It destroys the gut microbiome. It causes leaky gut. It contributes so much to the sickness of our US population that glyphosate needs to be completely destroyed and replaced with something else. So, I don't know if it's a chess move or what when he signed that, but it does not look good.
So I have to do this. I don't wanna do this. I have to do this.
Mhm.
So past guests of the show, Dr. Stephen Moore, Dr. Patrick Moore, excuse me, formerly of Greenpeace. I love Dr. Moore. I think we've had some really good conversations. We did one episode called "Debunking the Debunkers," and there's actually a there's a video going around right now. I have to pick on him a little bit because this is a very famous clip of him talking about glyphosate. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen
Okay.
here. Let me share with my audio. Let's go ahead and just take a quick listen. So only a minute and 40 seconds here, Kathy, and you make sure you let me know if you can hear this as well. Okay. All right. Let's take a listen.
Last Sunday, we told you about a WHO report that listed several chemicals as potentially cancer causing, including glyphosate, found in the popular weed killer Roundup. Now, in an interview for an upcoming French documentary, a Canadian scientist has been caught in an Aaron Brockovich like moment when he's asked to defend that chemical against links to cancer rates in Argentina. Take a look.
Do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to actually.
You-
Not really, but
Not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some
No,
glyphosate.
I'm not stupid.
Okay. So you.
No, but I know
So
that
it's dangerous,
I
right?
know people try to commit suicide
No,
with
no,
it and
but
fail
let's-
fairly
let's-
regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous to humans. No, it's
No.
not.
So you're ready to drink one glass of
No,
glyphosate?
I'm not an idiot.
The clip is being shared widely. But despite headlines like these, the man being interviewed, Patrick Moore, is not a lobbyist for Monsanto.
So the story goes on, then he will end up walking off the interview. But I mean, again, I've interviewed Dr. Moore. Nice guy, had a really good chats and stuff. But I mean, you see stuff like that, and you're like, come on, man. Like, let's call a spade a spade.
Absolutely. Well, first off, he is stupid. So, that's that's all I got. He is stupid. Just for that to come out of his mouth was
Yeah.
stupid. That was stupid. It's like there's a clip of Paul Offit, who's a big vaccine proponent, and he talks about you can give a child 10,000 vaccinations and it won't hurt them. And so we're like, okay, Paul, take it, 10,000 vaccinations, and he hasn't. So it's like, let's do a challenge show, shall we?
If you're focused on long-term health but tired of overcomplicated wellness trends, you already know the frustration. Too many products promise miracles and deliver chaos. Cardio Miracle keeps it simple. It supports nitric oxide and blood flow, foundational elements of heart health, stamina, and overall performance. That means better energy, better workouts, and better recovery, without forcing your body into extremes. If you want health support that actually makes sense, and to get 15% off your order, visit cardiomiracle.com/TBNS to learn more.
Let's bring these people on that make these exaggerations, if that's what they are, or admit their exaggerations and not pieces of truth, and let's do the challenge. That's what we need.
Well, I always wonder too, because and I don't mean to pick on him a lot. I just happen to. There's Dr. Mike. He's a big YouTube influencer in the health space, and my wife and I will watch his videos every now and then. And it was funny. Like we finished the video the other night, and I was like, I wish he wouldn't get so political. She's like, you thought he was political? I was like, yeah, because he's like constantly just like, oh, this is misinformation, or like, oh, these are why this argument's stupid, instead of actually like taking on the argument from a
Mhm.
good faith perspective. And I think that's the part too, is that like you have to be able to entertain a conversation in this case in a very like it's a hotly debated topic because it impacts our kids, right? Like that's
Right.
why this is so it has such fervor around it. But like to actually entertain that conversation with the opportunity to have your mind changed, right? That's something that
Yes.
I see a lot of our friends more on the just like the fervent pro-vaccine side, that they will not be willing to have that dialogue.
Mhm.
And I look at that curiously because and I don't know if you've seen there's this image, it shows this matrix between more, we'll say, collectivist left thought versus right thought. And on the right hand side of the political spectrum, you see people of all different political persuasions are willing to engage in political disagreements, yet still coalesce around a general ethos, right? Whereas on the
Mhm.
left, it is just the tightest knit of
Mhm.
thinking, right? And there's nothing that's allowed outside of that tight knit,
Right.
and
Mhm.
everything kind of coalesces. And you can see this visually. And it's very, very the contrast is very transparent, and how the left has seemingly gotten much more into this hive mind, whereas the right is much more willing to engage in more open debate and dialogue. And I guess we see this transcend into the medical world, right? When we have these conversations, what we're having about today. So I say
Oh,
all that,
yeah.
like, how do we encourage, and it sounds so weird, but like, how do we encourage good faith debate from the folks that have very much just they've poo-pooed alternative arguments as
Mhm.
quack science or misinformation like Dr. Mike has done. What
Right.
would you say there?
Yeah, so, that's a very, very interesting question, and I've heard lots of interesting things on how to address that. And one of the most, effective things I think that is going to change the way the if you wanna call them closed-minded people are thinking, the ones that it's going to have to come from consumers.
Mm,
It's going to come from everyday people that are willing to listen to both sides of the story, to compare the data, look at the scientific, studies, look at the outcomes, and they are the ones fleeing their pediatricians' offices because they don't want to be forced into medical procedures. They are the ones that are buying certain products because they don't want to be told what to think, how to think. It's the consumer that is eventually going to be changing these outcomes because it's they vote with their dollar. And as people are leaving, like I said, the mainstream medical communities and moving over towards like functional medicine, preventative medicine, the things that we do, it's like we need more doctors on this side, going to root cause. And that's, I always talk about that. Mainstream medical is really into disease management.
Yes.
All they want to do is you come to me with diabetes, I'm going to teach you how to manage it. You come to me with high blood pressure, I'm going to teach you how to manage it. Because you know what? I need a patient for life.
Can't
And
solve it.
yeah, if you come over to functional medicine, preventative medicine, we're talking about lifestyle. What do you eat? How do you sleep? Are you exercising? What's your gut microbiome look like? It's all of those things because what we want to do is we want to make you be healthy. And so when they talk about treatments in Western medical, it's not treatments. It's medical management is what it is. So, we really need people, and again, it's the consumers that are tired, fed up with mainstream medical, and they are voting with their dollars and they are moving over to things like functional medicine, root cause medicine. And that's when these other doctors are going to be like, well, how come my patients are being reduced? What's going on? Why am I losing business? Where did that patient go? And but other than that, they are so they're in a bubble they're in a bubble. They are directed by managed care. So, for example, they can't even, a lot of these people in mainstream medical, they can't even offer certain like supplements or alternative medications because their malpractice insurance doesn't cover that. That's considered, outside of their scope of therapies. And so they don't even have the option. So, why would they even look at doing any of that? But, they're not going to get paid for telling somebody to go exercise. That was, they're just not. That's why, back in the day, my husband, Jim, he went from ophthalmology because he couldn't prevent end stage retinal damage to these patients. He needed to catch them 10, 15 years prior on, how do we take care of our bodies so we don't get sick and we don't need those eye surgeries and, just pivoted straight to functional medicine. And we just need more of those. We need a lot more of those.
It's just so frustrating because
Mhm.
time preference is something that a lot of folks just they either don't understand or frankly don't have the patience for. And when you look at time preference, the idea being I'm going to do X, which is going to cause more of a short-term pain for a long-term gain, right? And it's well, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to work out for 30 minutes because I know that in terms of spending that time, it's going to yield something more positive in the future. And as a society, we've really gotten to this instant gratification where we want that easy button. So we want our cake or we want to have our cake and eat it too. So we end up fat, not so happy because we're so sick. And then we say, "Oh God, let me be miserable. Just give me a pill and let me numb myself to death." Like that's
Yeah.
what ends up happening. And that for me, I used to be that. I was 385 pounds, right? Like I was morbidly obese. And for me to go through my health transformation, it was one of the biggest things I've ever done in my life because I I got to see kind of two worlds.
Mm.
And it's scary when you're on that other side and you're like, yeah, this is normal. Like my wife and I watched this one guy, YouTuber named Will Tennyson, and he has this gentleman, he's a fitness YouTuber, and he has this one guy who morbidly obese, like 700 plus pounds.
Oh, heavy.
And he's doing this big weight loss journey right now, and he's down 200 pounds currently.
Oh,
But just like going through and learning about his past life before he started this transformation. Kathy, are you ready to understand how much this guy was eating? Like, I still can't believe the number. You tell me, what if you had to guess in terms of the amount of calories, how much do you think this guy would eat on a daily basis?
so
750 pounds.
pre-diet change and
Yeah,
everything? Calories. Oh, I don't
just
know, 10,000?
15,000 calories. And I just
No
sat there and
wonder, right?
I was like, he is
Yeah.
eating in one day
Mm.
the amount of food that would be equivalent for 7 people. Just what? And
Yeah.
that was his normal. He would spend over $150 in, like, DoorDash delivery stuff every day,
How do
and that
you
was just
do that?
normal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, it is interesting because I really feel like we are developing this parallel medical system. We
Yes.
have mainstream medical, pill for every ill, quick fix, disease management, and then we have this other side, which is functional medicine, holistic, lifestyle changes. Let's heal you, let's keep you healthy. And you know what? We're always going to have both sides. It's going to be a parallel system. And I'll just give you the example. We'll have a patient come over and they're like, fed up with their current doctor and all this other stuff. And so we bring them in and we counsel them. We call it the mindset. It's microbiome, inflammation, nutrition, detox, sleep, exercise, and total hormone balance. And it's work, people. You have to work at that. And they're like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do that. And they leave and they go back to their other physician and they take their high blood pressure medication and they take whatever, because human nature, not everybody can do it. And it's just, I don't it's very sad, but I always think that there's always going to be that parallel system. You're going to have mainstream medical and then you're going to have the functional medicine people. And I just pray that more people wake up and maybe we see it a lot where like one family member will start doing the holistic healing and then here comes their
Snowballs.
kids, and then
Yeah.
here comes their parents, right, and it's just that's
Well, because
exactly it.
once you see it, you
It's
can't
the
unsee it,
snowball.
right? Like, once you see
Yeah.
someone make the physical transformation
Mhm.
in not just physical transformation, but the health transformation. There are
Right.
people that I went to school with who I've seen just the opposite, right? Like, they balloon. They are so unhealthy now, and to see it's because they did what you said, right? They took that short term, like, "Nah,
Mhm.
I'm good. I'm just gonna eat myself to death," right? Because that
Yeah.
tastes good. I get that instant gratification.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, when you look at the people who actually do put in the time, energy, and effort, by the way, this just kinda goes by and large, you see they are happier, right? They are more
Mhm.
emotionally stable, and you see them, like, they have healthier families, and once you as an outsider see that, you can't unsee that, right? Like, if
Right.
you see someone go through that positive transformation, this is why Christians are so popular in getting people to be evangelized, because they're like, "Look what it's done for me. It
Yeah.
can do that for you." And just like that pure joy and excitement in what can be for
Mhm.
others, it's contagious. And that's something that I think when you kind of what you're going through, I mean, before we hit record, I mentioned you're glowing, right? Because you're going through something very similar right
Mhm.
now, and
Yes.
you're seeing the value of doing that just yourself.
Mhm.
That's something that, and by the way, you said this, and it's so true. It's so true. There are I believe for a while that anybody can do anything.
Mhm.
It's not true. And that's just you're right. Like,
That
it's
isn't
not.
true. Yeah.
Right? Like, I wish it was. I
Mhm.
used to believe it, but, like, there are people who there's that term, the NPCs, right? The non-player characters. There are
Mhm.
folks, Kathy, I'm sure you know of folks, I'm sure people listening know of folks. They
Mhm.
just kinda, they go along through the day. They don't ask questions. They just kind of they're like, "Ah, this is my programming," right? Like, beep, bop, boop, and they
Yeah.
don't want to ask questions. They don't know to ask questions, and gosh darn it, Kathy, if I'm being real, I don't know what they would do if they even got the answers.
Yeah. Well, what we can do is we can lead by example. And then because, the other thing, and we did talk about like my transformation. I did a 90-day challenge, which was, I really dialed in on my nutrition, started going back to the gym regularly. And cognitively, I mean, it just like it lifted this cloud, which I needed. I had gone through so much stress and, with the clinic and operating without gym here anymore. And I think that if people could just get that feeling again, and maybe they're just going to have to see somebody get it and who's leading by example, and then
Yep.
they're going to have to do it. But talking about I can do anything. Well, mine was a 90-day challenge, so I just kept saying to myself, I can do anything for 90 days, and that's what I every single day when I knew that you know. I couldn't eat dairy. That meant no more bulletproof coffee. I mean, that was like my go-to every day, but I stopped doing dairy, so that meant no butter in my coffee, but I can do anything for 90 days. And, that's really what it's a mindset. It really is. And I just hope that, we can lead other people to do that kind of stuff. but it's
It's
and I
not
still
easy,
don't do
though.
dairy. It's way past my 90-day challenge, and I'm not going back. So
Well, it's funny, I listen to Patrick Bet-David a lot, and he talks about whenever he has a guest on his show that, like, makes him, like, eye open. He like, one lady was on the show, and she was talking about how bad Celsius is for you, and I say that as I drink Celsius, and I
yeah,
shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. But, like, he's like, "Well, yeah, once I saw that," and she was going through all the things in detail, he's like, "I haven't had Celsius since," and he, like, goes through anytime he has somebody in the show who, like, gets him kind of, like, eye open, he changes a diet thing. And it's hard because
If you operate a multi-location business like restaurants, retail stores, grocery chains, or franchises, managing phones across locations should not be complicated. But for many operators, it is. Inconsistent systems, confusing bills, and vendors who disappear when problems show up. Level 365 simplifies business communications across every location with centralized control, reliable performance, and real human support. No long-term lock-ins, no surprise fees, just a phone system that scales without the headaches. Learn more at level365.com.
you know, like, and I get it. The temptation is real. Like, life is short. You want to indulge. You want to enjoy. You say, oh my goodness, like, what's this one thing hurt me, right? And then you say that 10 times a day, and it's like, well,
yeah.
the one thing didn't. The 10 times that did. And that's the part where, unfortunately, Cathy, like, again, a lot of people just want that easy button. They want that easy path through life. They want, they're playing the video game on easy mode,
Yeah.
right? They got the tutorial. They don't have to even think. They got the little
Yeah.
arrow that points them where they're supposed to go. And it's just like, I don't know. For me, that's no way to live life.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. And that's gonna bring me back to informed consent, because informed consent, that means that Western medical physician needs to tell the patient, "Okay, if you're not going to change your diet, you're not going to exercise, you're not going to, get better sleep, you're not going to check your hormones. If you're not going to do these things, you will be on this pill with these side effects for the rest of your life.
Right.
And if you get side effects from this pill, I'm probably going to add another pill for those side effects, and you're going to be on that pill for the rest of your life." That's part of informed consent. You need to tell the patient what they're going to be on for the rest of their life, because that goes back to disease management, but that's where they want you, people. And you can fire your doctor.
Say it
Fire
again.
your doctor. You can fire your doctor. Well, I mean, you know me. I mean, I'm against pediatricians. I mean, that's my big thing is now we do need some pediatricians, so don't send hate mail to me, but we need fewer pediatricians, and they need to be critically thinking pediatricians. They need to be that. So yeah, because I mean, we know the data is in on a lot of medical procedures and what it's causing in our children. And I did want, for your viewers that are interested in things like that, I want to talk again. Informed consent means that the doctor informs you of risks, benefits, and alternatives. And the second word is consent. Consent means you say yes or no. That's it. You're informed, and then you consent. You say yes or no. So if you say no and your provider or physician or pediatrician badgers you, bullies you, tells you, or the administration says you can't go to school, or you can't do this, or you have to do this, that is not true consent. That is coercion. And you can fire that provider. So you just remember that. You remember.
And you
Right.
mentioned earlier, right? There is a parallel economy that has
Right.
been forming over the years, and
Mhm.
it's out there, right? We have sponsors on
Yeah.
the show, Cardio Miracle, studio
Mhm.
sponsor. They're building phenomenal supplementation
It's a
on the
great
side to help with
supplement.
heart health. Right,
Mhm.
phenomenal. Meehan MD,
Mhm.
phenomenal company, right?
Mhm.
You look at the wellness company out there; they're doing great stuff. You have all these folks who are fighting the good fight and creating alternative medicine options that are now
Option. Yeah.
right. Like, and that's the thing, an option. Give me a choice.
Mhm.
Don't tell me that this one size fits all medical expert establishment that we've had for generations at this point is the only answer when I objectively know it's not. And that's not to say, and this is the part with like folks like Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, I think you have a lot of great content. I think you have a lot of great value, but just because like it was said by someone in your medical world does not make it gospel. And that's the part is like, I want to go back to what you said earlier about the pediatricians, right? Like the need for critical thinking.
Mm.
There are people, especially in my generation, that just it blows me away, Cathy. Like they have no ability to actually look at something objectively, like analyze, and
Mhm.
then critically approach something in a logical type of manner. And I'm like, where is this? Why don't you
Yeah.
have this basic cognitive skill?
Well,
I don't get it.
they're not learning it in school.
That's true. Yeah.
They are not learning critical thinking skills in school. They are taught to sit down, memorize, and listen and march forward. That's what they're taught in school.
Be a good little
So,
sheep.
yes, be little sheep, follow. It's like, my problem with like doctors. They're not taught to be critical thinkers. They're taught, yeah, I was a pharmaceutical rep. I went in and I gave them a little sheet that says, if your patient experiences these symptoms, prescribe this drug. That was my thing. There you go. And I come back the next day or the next week and I'm like, remember, if your patient has these symptoms, prescribe this drug. And that was it. It was nothing like, you ever talk to them about, maybe getting some exercise or changing their eating habits or something like that. It was none of that. It was they want a list of things to memorize and then they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to research. They don't have to do anything. So anyway, sorry I was a drug
No,
rep.
it's a lot easier not to think. Like
It is a lot easier not to think. It is a lot
and
easier not to think.
man, when you
Yeah.
think back to and I've had this debate with my boomer friends, like they don't like me that much, Cathy. I don't know why, but like I've gotten this whole like, back in our day, it used to be a lot better because everybody was kind of on the same page. I'm like, yeah, because you were all being force-fed information through the tube, the television
Yeah.
tube at that point, and you had no real alternatives. You had 3 channels, and guess what? They all were being controlled by the CIA. So, like, that's just the fundamental
It's like
reality of what you grew up
everybody
thinking was
thought the
real.
same. Right, yeah.
Exactly. Of course, everybody thinks the same when the people behind the scenes are writing the script, and that's the part where, like, at least today we have the ability to have this conversation and
Mm,
like have debate. And I guess for my final thoughts, and I'll let you bring us home, is like
yeah.
I wish my friends, and this goes back to with COVID, like we hurt the channel. I know we did with COVID because like YouTube, we are still deemed harmful content
Mhm.
because we were one of the channels that got throttled and really hurt back during COVID because we stood up and said, no, this is stupid. This is wrong. We have to think critically. My Twitter, even since Elon took over, it's still, I have 18,000 followers. I get like 2 likes a tweet.
Mm,
That's been broken since COVID. Like there's all these different entities. Only Facebook of all the organizations has given me any like grace coming back from even then when I was banned on Facebook. So it's like
yeah.
all these social media apps, even still with the censorship, we're here, right? You and I are having a
Yes.
conversation, and you mentioned the
Mhm,
market, right? The market being a way that we win. Rumble
mhm.
exists.
Yes.
Alternative, like Elon buying X now and giving us platforms where we're able to like actually have legitimate disagreements and debates and not be censored because our opinion isn't on that 3x5 allowable opinion card, right? Like to be able to voice dissent, not in like just to be a skeptic, but like actually voice a concern. Say, I think this is a problem and we should have a
Yeah.
legitimate conversation around it. Like that should be okay. But hey, that's my final thoughts. What are your final
Yeah.
thoughts, Cathy? Bring us home.
Yeah. So again, my what I love to talk about is informed consent, and that means risks, benefits, and alternatives. And then I also really love to provide educational resources for people when they are, just kind of like doing their own research. So I would love for people to go to Mindset Kids, which is here's one of our little health guide right here, but it's mindset-kids.com. I have a whole page full of resources where parents and families can get information on some of the medical procedures where they can learn a little bit about risks, benefits, and alternatives. And I list some books on there, which are great things. I'll just real quick. Vax Facts, which is written by a pediatrician. And then one of my favorites from Physicians for Informed Consent. It's called Vaccines and the Diseases They Target. This is really great if people like the real like more study side of things, but it's great resources. And then an Inconvenient study is the largest study of vaxxed versus unvaccinated children. It is a retrospective study. I'll give you the link to put in there, and it's an eye-opener, and you will be blown away when you see an Inconvenient study.
Cathy Mehan from Mehan MD. It has been a pleasure once again having you on the show. I always enjoy our chats, and folks, I know you guys do as well because the numbers don't lie. They're always quite high. When that actually rhymed.
That
I didn't mean to
rhymed.
happen. I did not mean that to happen, but hey, what can I say? The former singer-songwriter from 2010s coming back. No, not today. But no,
Your
Cathy,
new
I know for
tagline.
yeah, for sure. But I know
love it.
I know our audience, they appreciate these chats around health because it's something that impacts all of us, right? We all
Yes.
either we know someone who's going through health issues. We see the stories of people dying from cancers. We see the stories of what's happening with young kids and just the questions right therein. And that's stuff that we should be able to have a conversation around. Whether you
Yes.
agree, you disagree, let's have the chat, right?
Mhm.
Because if you can't have the conversation, that raises more alarms. But hey, with that being said, that's why the Brian Nichols Show exists, so we can leave the audience educated, enlightened, and informed. But with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and put a pin in today's conversation. With that being said, yes, Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show for the one and only Cathy Mehan from Mehan MD. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.